So, welcome back. I'm Elaine M. Bergstrom, an artist perspective, and today I wanted to share some sketching, maybe SUMI brush, I don't know. Kind of see, I love this leaf. I'm sorry I don't remember the resource of where it came from, but I just like it because, you know, it's got all these different colors and different background. So I did trace the leaf, and I'm gonna put it in a box. I'm just gonna trace my little pencil box around it just to kind of give it a frame. And looking at the photograph, it has a grayish background, so let's go ahead and maybe put in some Payne's gray in the background. I'm just going to take some watercolors and my refillable and just dilute it a little bit. I'm just going to move this a little closer to my hand and go ahead and just kind of add that Payne's gray to the background, and it will bring out the leaf quite nicely, hopefully. So if I was out in the field, this would just kind of give me a good starting point. And notice I haven't added any more Payne's gray yet, so I'm just kind of bringing it down. That way. And it's kind of streaky because it's on a board, but because the tips of the leaf are white, you can probably use the Presto pen to just make those points, unless you just want it to be an ink drawing picture. I'm trying not to, you know, make too much of a big deal out of painting the background, because if I was out in the field, I would know I'm going to try and do quite a few different sketches and not spend as much time on one. Now this brush does come in a bigger point, and if you like to use rounds like me, it'd probably be better than this smaller tip. So, yeah, it got some kind of unevenness. When it dries, I can put in the really deep, dark lines. So I have to decide, you know, am I brush penning this? Am I ink drawing it? Am I adding watercolors? So it's still a little wet. And so let's add the watercolors to it. I think that'd be fun. So I'm going to mix up some orange. Oops. Using wrong colors. Let me just clean out my well. So usually, you know, it depends what yellows you have. So this is kind of like a lightest orange, and what I'm seeing is kind of like it's hard to see in this light, but it kind of has a little coral, and you never know if it's your printer or if it was, you know, on an image. If it's the printer or if it's really what was being seen in nature. So I'm going to just take a little bit of this orange and mixed up with a little bit of opaque white, and just going to, needs actually a little touch, maybe a cool red to make it a little more coral-y. And I'm just gonna blend that with the water. Looks more orange on the video. And a little bit more color, just so it shows up a little bit stronger. And then if you look, it's kind of like a turquoise, I don't know, minty kind of green. Phthalo works pretty good with that. Mix up a touch of green in it just to make it look more turquoisey. And just bring that in. And if you like it, that's what's important. Sometimes I'll just put color swatches around. Let's get some. So I think the orange is a lot stronger than I had hoped. So let's see if we can kind of maybe blot some of it out there, just to lighten it a little bit. Okay. And I am noticing that it looks like a brown sienna. So I'm going to use my colored pencils because there's a brown sienna pencil in there. And just kind of indicate a little bit of the marks that I'm seeing. I love these little outlines. So if I wet the tip of the pencil, it might bleed a little bit. Just dip it in a little water. This is a water soluble. And it kind of softens the edge a little bit. And let's wet here. Once it's wet, though, you can't do, it's like there's certain color blending that you can't do, but it kind of serves its purpose for this particular drawing. Yeah, that's really popping it. And then, let's see, I need some a darker brown, so you can mix that up. Very little, lifting it with some water. These are dark spots. And then adding water on this pencil will, kind of do its own thing. Go back to some coral in here, orange, whatever you have. This looks like an olive green down in here, so I know that a warm yellow and my ultramarine gives me more of that olivey color If I want to dull it a little bit, just put in some red. Bring it in. It's looking okay. So now I have to decide, what do I want to do with the edge? So I can either go deeper with the Payne's Gray, and never put ink around it, but I think a nice like ink line would be great. You could use a fountain pen. You can also do your brush pen work on it as well. So this is the Presto Jumbo Corrector, which I really like using. You can also sometimes use a gel pen. Now it does squirt out kind of thick, so you might want to, let's see, get it going on the paper, or like your finger. Oops, it's really stuck. Let's see. Maybe a fine brush would do it, or just move quickly for the points. Use a fine brush with some opaque pen, paint. It didn't do anything that way, so I think the fountain pen, but if you want to do like thick and thin lines, let's see. That kind of looks nice, where if you press down in the fold a little bit, start out thin, and then press, get kind of that interesting looking leaf line. Kind of gives it even a shadowy look in the center. And then if you're doing the black outline, why not just use your brush pen as the tip? Oops, that was too thin. Too thick. But that makes for an interesting kind of drawing. And then you could even take a fountain pen and let's do some maybe broken line down that way. Got some texture on the branch. That might be too thick, a little too thick. So now let's put in, back to the brush pen, and there's these really dark, lines going through the back of that. And if you take your water brush, you can wet that and kind of, give it some more texture. Blend that out a little bit. That one's really loaded with ink, so maybe lift some and tap it on your paper towel. This is a good opportunity, like if you were studying wood grains. This makes for an interesting piece because it has this wood grain. So, it can be so many things in nature to study. If there's too much ink, just lift it out and tap it on a paper towel. Now it's starting to pop a little bit. So this is permanent ink, but if you wet it right away, you could get these value changes in it. Let's see. So think light against dark will give you more contrast. So. And then up on top, we can try a little dry brush technique with the refillable flat brush. You twist the top and it makes kind of like fringy brush texture. Hopefully you can see that. I'm going to put it in the tips of the bristles in the Payne's Gray, and then just drag that across, gives you a little bit more texture. Sometimes on the drier palette, it's a little too strong, but then what I could do is just blend in parts of it with some water, and it gives me a little bit of texture there. Put this down. And you can always take your paper towel and, blot it up too. So let's try that again. It was a little bit too dark. It just gives a nice dry brush texture. If you don't have one of these brushes, and if you carry a travel brush in your thing, just take that and wet it a little bit, and then just get the tips. Some brushes cooperate better. And you can just kind of drag the tip, but the brush cannot be really wet that way. And that's a little, I want it to soften it. but it will give you some texture, and it gives me a little indication that, you know, I'm trying to get some wood texturing. Getting a little Payne's gray. Yeah. I think that's good. We could outline it with, you know, if you've got a straight hand, you could take your brush pen it do better. My hand's not as still as it should be. There we go. If I knew the type of the leaf, I would describe it. You know, if it came from a tree, it may be some kind of maple or something because it's pointy. There are a few maples that, you know, don't have all the little lobies and stuff. Let's see. This needs a little bit brown here. So I'm going in with the pencil. So this really was like a mixed media. Oops, I had a lot of white on it. So it's just what that. Give me a little bit of that texture. And remember, if you dip it in water, you can get some bleeding to it. And just take a brush and kind of soften it a little bit. This still needs a little bit more, so I'm going to wet it. And it's a black pencil. Just kind of wet that in. And it was burnt sienna with a little bit of black. And if you just wet it, it will work kind of like a water pencil too. So that was fun. I hope you enjoyed doing that and trying it. So it could just be, you know, different wood textures doing that. I'm noticing that the vein almost looks a little bit like that coral color. Let's see, I've got some along the edge here. So, kind of pops it. I think the original is actually a little more yellow. So let's lift that up a bit. It just gives it a little bit more. It looks very light. So instead, maybe I would have started with some incising in the leaf and then put the color underneath. But I think it's fun, and you can just see, even naturally without trying, just changing the edge of the thick and thickness of the brush pen really accentuates the leaf a little bit more. And then don't forget to add your metadata. You know, maybe I would just say leaf. Leaf. Could erase this extra pencil lines. Clean it up a little bit once it's dry. I don't like that there. But if you're into journaling, and why not have some fun calligraphy in there? So let's see. Leaf. And today is, what is it, May 16th. So I could put that down, maybe here, 5, 16. And if I was outdoor, I would describe, by me, it's a really sunny, bright day. So let's just say sunny day. It's obviously warm where I live in Florida. Let's get that tip. If I was at a location like a sunny day outside where I live, there's a pond, maybe I was at the pond, and I could put color swatches. I can't speak today, so let's just put some coral. Let's see, I mixed up that phthalo. Let's see. Put a little phthalo. This is a new set of core paints that I'm playing with. Let's see. Got a little dark. Let's see. And a drop of whatever green. I'll do that. Oops. A little more turquoise. I did the brown pencil. Swap that. Oops. Got some of that turquoise in it. Let's see. Because it was wet, now it's more susceptible to breaking. And let's see, the black pencil. And I did do, let's see, we made a little bit of, I think it was olive green. I want to use a warmer yellow, like cad, and your ultramarine blue. That gives you more of that olivey green. If you add a touch of red to it, make it even deeper, kind of in this area. So that kind of tells me a little bit about what I was doing. And the brush pen, with thick and thin lines you could play with. That way. And just have fun with your learning and what you do. So I hope you enjoyed this, and until next time,